Meghan and Harry finally merchandise their children. That's right.
Neil Sean didn't just drop a news update, he lobbed a financial bombshell. His revelation was ruthless. Meghan and Harry are now merchandising their own children, Archie and Lilibet.
Meghan and Harry finally merchandise their children. That's right, Archie.
Like products on a Hollywood shelf. That single expose ripped open one of the ugliest truths shadowing the Sussex brand. They've run out of money, and desperation has no limits. Because here's the thing, when it comes to the Sussexes, the fairy tale has crumbled into a cash grab nightmare. Their Netflix empire plays out like a Silicon Valley startup with burning venture capital, failed launches, and executives who've quietly given up. The couple who preached about protecting their children's privacy is now accused of turning those same kids into their last marketable asset. Every time you look closer at their financial house of cards, the cracks widen.
Originally, some of the gas lights, if you didn't get the temperature right, would blow up. Can you imagine? You're being set in the dark.
Netflix executives smell blood in the water. Content creators have mentally checked out. The Christmas special nobody asked for becomes a desperate Hail Mary. Harry's documentary dreams turn into bargaining chips. And now, those pixelated children they've hidden from the world, they're being positioned as the final play in a game that's already over. This isn't just another royal controversy. We're talking about calculated exploitation disguised as family content, a streaming deal hemorrhaging credibility, and a pattern that looks more like financial panic than creative vision.
You can't see them, right? So if you can't see them, how can they be adorable? You get the picture. What's interesting, in my opinion,
Meghan has built her post-royal identity on exclusive access and manufactured mystery. But what if the greatest performance wasn't her acting career? What if it's pretending they're not broke? The Netflix money well is drying up, the content pipeline is a disaster, and suddenly those children they swore to protect from the spotlight have become their most valuable commodity.
And as I said to you before, it kind of annoys me, this particular ridiculous stories, where they say adorable pictures of the children. There's nothing adorable about them.
Even royal children become merchandise. Stick around. Because when the financial records, industry whispers, and insider revelations line up, the Sussex empire might not be crumbling, it might already be gone. It all starts with one uncomfortable truth. Netflix is done with them. What began as a $100 million golden parachute has devolved into what industry insiders call the most expensive mistake in streaming history. The content creator assigned to oversee Meghan's projects has, according to sources, mentally checked out entirely. But that's not just creative differences, that's a death sentence in Hollywood. When your handler stops returning calls, when executives smell it and know you're finished, when even your Christmas special feels like scraping the bottom of the content barrel, that's not a rough patch, that's career suicide in real time.
Lots and lots of people are looking at the disaster that is Meghan Markle's Netflix deal, and she can dress it up.
Think about it. Netflix gambled 9 figures on the Sussex brand, expecting royal exclusives, behind-the-scenes palace drama, and content that would break the internet. Instead, they got Harry's therapy sessions, Meghan's lifestyle platitudes, and a documentary so boring it made watching paint dry seem thrilling.
Way she wants, but the content creator, the sort of person in charge of all the content, she's kind of done with them,
The streaming giant that revolutionized entertainment with hits like Stranger Things and The Crown suddenly found themselves bankrolling the most expensive home videos ever made. It paints a picture of a couple who promised Hollywood magic but delivered amateur hour. Every pitch meeting becomes an awkward silence. Every deadline becomes another excuse. Every content review becomes another reason for Netflix executives to wonder how they got conned by 2 people whose only qualification was leaving the royal family. The brutal truth? Netflix doesn't just want their money back, they want the Sussexes gone. And when a streaming empire worth $240 billion considers you dead weight, your children suddenly become your only remaining bargaining chip.
People are slightly interested in them. And she tried everything, the mother, the children, Harry surfing, you name it.
The official story says Meghan and Harry left the royal family to protect their children's privacy. But if you believe that, you probably also believe Hollywood celebrities never read their own press releases. Because the whispers about their selective privacy breaches have been building for years, and now they're about to cash in those innocent faces. Remember their Netflix documentary where they couldn't wait to breach their own privacy and parade Archie and Lilibet on camera? or Meghan's recent social media posts featuring the children when she needed to distract from another PR disaster. These aren't protective parents. These are brand managers treating their kids like focus group assets. And here's where it gets worse. Every time their approval ratings tank, suddenly there's a candid family moment that just happens to leak to the press. Every time their Netflix content flops, suddenly there's an adorable story about the children that dominates headlines. The pattern isn't coincidence, it's strategy.
But it was all too little too late. And actually, if she'd have included the children, even for just a few.
But that's not just selective sharing. That's calculated exploitation dressed up as modern parenting. Normal parents don't have PR teams deciding when their children get pixelated and when they get plastered across international media. The Sussexes do.
To make sure she invaded her own privacy, this time around with a twerking video, because apparently...
Once you see the privacy paradox for what it is, a marketing tool, not a moral stance, everything else makes sense. The hidden children weren't being protected, they were being positioned. And now, with Netflix pressuring them for content that actually generates buzz, those carefully guarded faces have become their most valuable commodity. If the privacy breaches weren't calculated enough, the pixelated children phenomenon exposes the entire charade. For years, Meghan and Harry have teased glimpses of Archie and Lilibet like they're managing a mystery box marketing campaign, backs of heads at Disney. Blurred faces and family photos, strategic shadows that hide everything except the promise of revelation. As one industry observer noted, there's nothing adorable about pictures where you can't see the children. But that's exactly the point. The Sussexes aren't hiding their children, they're creating artificial scarcity. Every pixelated appearance builds demand. Every hidden moment increases value. Every protected glimpse makes the eventual reveal more marketable. It's the classic Hollywood playbook. Create mystery, build anticipation, then cash in on the reveal.
On the commemorative celebration look at his late mother, Diana, the Princess of Wales, then that.
The problem? Real parents don't treat their children like movie trailers. Real parents don't strategically hide faces to maximize future earning potential. Real parents don't turn family photos into content development pipelines. But the Sussexes aren't real parents anymore. They're content creators whose children happen to be their intellectual property. Every family moment becomes potential footage. Every milestone becomes possible programming. Every childhood memory becomes monetizable content. That's not protection, that's production planning. And with Netflix demanding results, those pixelated faces are about to come into very expensive focus. Behind the scenes, Netflix executives have made their position clear. They want one thing from Harry, and it has nothing to do with lifestyle content or royal commentary. They want the Princess Diana documentary that could justify their massive investment. And here's the brutal twist. They want the children involved.
Netflix would have liked, Archie and Lily involved in some element of, Meghan's big deal.
According to industry sources, Netflix would be interested in additional Sussex content only if Harry finally agrees to the commemorative Diana project they've been pushing since day one. The streaming giant knows that an intimate look at Diana through her son's eyes, potentially featuring her grandchildren, would generate the global audience their original deal promised. This isn't just content development, it's emotional extortion disguised as creative collaboration. Netflix is essentially telling Harry, use your dead mother's memory and your children's faces, or watch your deal evaporate. The company that promised creative freedom is now demanding the most personal sacrifice possible. And here's where the desperation becomes obvious. Harry has resisted the Diana documentary because he knows it crosses a line from content creation into grief exploitation. But with their other projects failing and their financial runway shrinking, that line is starting to look like their only lifeline. The executives aren't subtle about it. They want to see if Archie and Lilibet have a look of Diana. They want the visual connection that would make their documentary appointment television. They want Harry's children to become the emotional hook that turns their expensive mistake into streaming gold. That's not content creation, that's generational exploitation with a Netflix budget. Let's strip away the speculation and face the most uncomfortable revelation of all. According to exclusive industry sources, the very few crew members who've actually seen Archie and Lilibet during their brief appearances on set all report the same thing. The children look exclusively like Prince Harry. We're talking about everything. Eyes, skin tone, facial structure, literally every identifiable feature. Not a single crew member, despite Meghan's obvious presence in their creation, could identify any physical resemblance to their mother. It's as if genetics decided to completely bypass half of their heritage. Now, children do change as they grow, and resemblances can shift over time, but for industry professionals trained to notice details, the complete absence of any recognizable Meghan features raises questions that go beyond simple genetics. It suggests something the Sussex brand can't afford, that even their children's appearances don't support the narrative they're trying to sell. This matters because Netflix isn't just buying content, they're buying authenticity. If the streaming giant is betting on the visual appeal of Diana's grandchildren, and those children look nothing like the woman Netflix also invested in, the entire demographic calculation falls apart. The brutal truth? Even the Sussex children's genetics seem to be working against their parents' brand strategy. When your own kids don't look like your marketing materials, you're not just losing audience appeal, you're losing credibility. Here's the cycle that reveals everything. The Sussexes create artificial scarcity around their children, build mystery and demand, then gradually release content to maintain relevance. But each reveal diminishes the value of the next one, creating a downward spiral of diminishing returns and increasing desperation. First, it was the documentary appearances that breached their own privacy policies. Then it came the strategic social media posts during PR crises. Next, the Christmas special negotiations where children became bargaining chips. And now, according to industry sources, discussions about giving Archie and Lilibet their own Netflix series. Each step escalates the exploitation while delivering smaller returns. The novelty wears off, the audience gets bored, Netflix executives lose interest. And suddenly, the children who were supposed to be protected become the only content valuable enough to potentially save their parents' careers. But that's not sustainable business strategy. That's parental exploitation disguised as family programming. Normal families don't have content pipelines built around their toddlers. Normal families don't negotiate TV series deals for children who can't even read yet. The Sussexes have turned their children into content creators before those children could consent to cameras, understand contracts, or comprehend that their childhood is being monetized for global consumption. They've become the stage parents of the streaming age, except their stage is international television and their audience is demanding increasingly intimate access. Let's face the nightmare head-on. What if Neil Sean's industry sources are accurate and the Sussexes really have run out of money? If their Netflix deal is hemorrhaging value, their content is failing, and their brand is toxic, then those hidden children aren't being protected. They're being positioned as the final asset in a financial disaster. That would mean every pixelated photo wasn't about privacy, but about building market value. Every strategic reveal wasn't about sharing joy, but about maintaining relevance. Every resistance to showing the children wasn't about protection, but about preserving their only remaining bargaining chip with Netflix. Suddenly, the devoted parents' narrative becomes something else entirely. Desperate content creators whose children represent their last chance at streaming success. The privacy advocates become brand managers whose most valuable intellectual property happens to be two toddlers who never asked to be born into a content creation empire. And here's the brutal twist. If this financial desperation is real, those children aren't just being commodified, they're being positioned as the solution to their parents' career failures. Their faces become the content that could save the Sussex brand. Their childhood becomes the programming that could justify Netflix's investment. That's not family programming, that's generational sacrifice disguised as entertainment. And if Netflix executives really are demanding Diana documentary content featuring the children, we're looking at emotional manipulation on an industrial scale. Line up the evidence. The failing Netflix content, the desperate Christmas special, the pixelated marketing strategy, the Diana documentary pressure, the physical resemblance revelations, and the escalating merchandise discussions. One financial misstep could be managed. This many? It stops looking like creative differences and starts looking like the systematic commodification of childhood. The Sussexes built their post-royal empire on exclusive access and manufactured mystery, but the foundation looks held together by financial desperation and audience manipulation. Whether their Netflix deal was worth $100 million or $1, the bigger question is this: what else are they willing to sacrifice? If their children's privacy was this negotiable, how many other principles are simply market positions waiting to be abandoned? That's why the Sussex story no longer feels like a royal independence tale. It feels like a financial house of cards collapsing in real time, with two innocent children positioned as the final support beam. And the more desperately they fight to monetize their family, the more obvious it becomes that the fairy tale was always a business plan. And here's the kicker: if this children's merchandising scandal looks desperate, wait until you hear about the industry whispers surrounding their upcoming tell-all documentary, an even bigger gamble that, according to Netflix insiders, could either save their deal or destroy what's left of their credibility forever. Subscribe, stay tuned, and buckle up. The Sussex money story is only getting darker.